What's up, you guys? Back with another video here, the first video of 2025. So in this video, we're going to be discussing the age-old question of who would win in a battle. Physical smashdown between none other than He-Man and the mighty Thor. So these characters from the initial outlook are pretty similar in a lot of ways. Both are kind of barbarians. They're both blonde. I don't know, they're both really muscular. They both have a magical weapon that seems to summon lightning to a certain degree. Both of them transform to certain degrees when they become their different powerful version. And they need their weapon to transform them into their, powerful warrior version of themselves. So who would win in this battle? So kind of a brief overview of their abilities. He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe, if we're assuming that these people, just for this discussion, they inhabit the same universe. We're going to assume that He-Man is the most powerful man in the universe. Superhuman strength, speed, agility, thanks to the power sword and the power of Grayskull. Based on the canon, he does receive the wisdom and the strength from the elders of Grayskull. So ancient wise people, when he takes the sword, seem to give him power. Who knows if he gets, their wisdom, he gets power from them. Unclear a little bit what degree of power as far as their wisdom he gets, but he gets really buff, very strong physically, skilled warrior in hand-to-hand combat, incredibly strong. He can crush a lot of really hard things to crush. He can throw some heavy objects, wields a sword, has access to various magical artifacts and abilities. Yeah, less clear because he's a less developed intellectual property, I would say. There's just kind of less definition as far as his powers go. And then you have Thor, Asgardian god with incredible strength, durability, control over the weather, wields the mighty hammer Mjolnir, which can control elements and summon the power of the 9 realms. A little bit more definition for this hero. Has access to the Odin Force, which grants him enhanced strength and energy projection. Skilled warrior and strategist. Yeah, some of those powers aren't really super defined either. Like the Odin Force, literally just researching for this video, I have no idea what that really is, but sort of tough to call. I'll give you the reasons for why each hero might win, and then I'll give you my opinion at the end. So Thor's arguments for why he should win. He-Man may be the most powerful man in the universe, but he is still a man. He's not a god. Thor is an Asgardian god. He has a different physiology, a god's physiology, harder to kill, more resilient to damage, and his hammer Mjolnir absorbs and redirects massive amounts of energy. Thor's control over the weather, the elements, could give him an advantage in this battle. That's a huge ability, to control storms. An ability that really I don't think He-Man has. He summons lightning. Lightning comes through his sword. So some ability of element control when he changes, but I don't really think there's evidence for a lot more than that. But maybe. Who knows? Also, before I move on to He-Man, Thor is probably a lot older than He-Man. He-Man is 16 years old, and he transforms into a crazy muscular person, but he's really 16. Unless he's getting some kind of wisdom from the elders, he's just got kind of the wisdom of a 16-year-old kid. Whereas Thor has been in Legends for 1,000+ years. So he's a lot older, maybe more experienced, So moving on to He-Man. So He-Man's abilities are fueled by the power of Grayskull. Not super sure if that includes wisdom of the elders. If it does, I think there's a much stronger argument for He-Man being able to beat Thor, because he has some added wisdom to match Thor's years of wisdom. He has strength. They're both strong. It's hard to say who would be stronger. I don't know. An advantage He-Man does have is he seems to be a worthy person. The Sword of Grayskull chose him because he seems to be a worthy hero. It doesn't choose anyone else. No one else wields He-Man's sword. At least getting power from He-Man's sword. No one else can do that. Thor only has his weapon in as much as he is worthy of it, and anyone else could take it. He-Man, being a worthy person already, wielding the Sword of Grayskull, could perhaps take Thor's hammer from him and wield both. And become Thor and He-Man at the same time. There's really no reason that shouldn't be possible for He-Man. He's a very worthy person already. So that could be a huge disadvantage. Thor's power can literally be taken from him by any worthy person. It doesn't mean Thor has to be unworthy, but if his opponent is worthy and just grabs his hammer, Thor is now, the other person gets the power of Thor. Then who controls the hammer? Anyway, Thor's hammer, at least from what we've seen, is also breakable. Hela broke his hammer. It was a little bit fuzzy on how she had the power to do that, how the hammer got repaired. Anyway, putting that aside, from what we know, Thor's hammer is breakable. He-Man's sword is not breakable. He-Man's very strong, the most powerful man in the universe. He could maybe break the hammer, and then Thor is just a person. He-Man's sword, from what I've understood, it's not really breakable. I've never seen it come close to being broken. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think it's breakable. While He-Man is just a man, he is the most powerful man in the universe. Thor is a god, but Thor has been bested by mortals kind of a lot of times. The Hulk is not a god. He's kind of a monster, but I don't know. He seems to have bested Hulk quite a few times. A lot of the opponents were just mortal. Some of them were gods, like Hela was a god, and Hela beat the crap out of Thor, basically. Beat him pretty good. So I don't think that just by virtue of Thor being a god, He-Man being a man, that it means no chance. He-Man can't win this. Thor's a god, but is he the most powerful god? Can a mediocre mid, and I'm not saying Thor is, but could a god, kind of an average powerful god, be defeated by the most powerful man in the universe? Maybe. It could be. So all of that being said, it's tough to call. I'm actually going to vote for He-Man, because He-Man's sword cannot be taken and used by another person, at least for my understanding. And Thor's hammer can be broken. It's breakable. Now that I'm thinking about it, I haven't watched the Netflix version of the He-Man Revelation show. I think Skeletor does take He-Man's sword and become Skelegod or whatever. I haven't watched that just because I don't think it looked very good, and I don't want to ruin He-Man for myself. But so maybe people can. I don't know. In other versions of the lore, the sword chose Adam, and nobody else can have the power of the sword unless they kill Adam for it. And I don't even think they can get it then. I think the sword has to give you the power. Anyway, that could be a thing to consider. If you've seen that Netflix thing and I'm wrong, I apologize. Anyway, but I give it to He-Man just for the fact that he can take Thor's hammer potentially, being a worthy person, and become Thor plus He-Man with both weapons. Yeah. Especially seeing as how Thor has struggled with being worthy in his life. He-Man hasn't really seemed to struggle with that. Thor already being prone to weakness there. It could go either way. I think He-Man has a pretty decent chance. Anyway, let me know what you think of this video. If you liked it, leave a like, comment on it, subscribe. If you want to see more like this, let me know. What other matchups would you guys like to see? Appreciate you watching. Have a good one.